Fall semester of my junior year in college, I was almost kicked out of art school. This whole fiasco is seared into my memory. I had been so excited to take this one course called The Creative Mind, and silly me, who definitely should have known better, thought that this course was going to be about different methods of creativity. You know, a little artsy, a little sciencey, two things I absolutely love, just talking about different ways people can create, different tools that they can use, different mindsets for getting into the mood to create art. And I was incredibly wrong. The first red flag I should have noticed was that my 2D and 3D design professor was co-teaching this class. The woman who made me hate art. I had her for 2 semesters my freshman year. One for 2D design, one for 3D design. And she absolutely crushed me. Nothing I did in either my 2D or 3D design class was ever good enough. And it was one of those things where I worked so hard only to have it thrown in my face. Whereas my college best friend would show up 5 minutes before class, slap something together, and would be praised endlessly for her creativity. The second red flag should have been that the other co-teacher was the head of the art and design department. This woman had it out for me. I changed my major after the end of my sophomore year. Originally, I had gone to the school because they were the only place that offered a degree in graphic design. Turns out, I hate graphic design, so I switched over to the English department. This led to a series of unanticipated events that led to the head of the art and design department having it out for me for an entire year. I kept graphic design as my minor, but because I had left the art and design department, I was no longer receiving art and design department emails. So I totally missed the graphic design gauntlet I was supposed to show up to. Had no idea it was a thing. Never got an email, was never notified. I went to the secretary for the art and design department. We figured out what had gone wrong. I apologized profusely for missing this time slot that I didn't know I was supposed to show up to. And the head of the department decided that my missing this critique was an unforgivable offense. But silly college me was super excited about this class that actually had nothing to do with the creative mind at all. And I spent the entire semester being ridiculed and mocked in front of the class. I don't remember every project we'd undertaken. We had to make a board game. I was paired with the coolest girl I had ever met. Her name was Allie, and we made an Alice in Wonderland board game the night before it was due, as one does. But we had purposely designed it so that you couldn't win the game. I mean, it's an Alice in Wonderland based game. Like there's no winning. You fell down the rabbit hole, you answer some riddles. That's it, right? Originally, we had wanted to do a labyrinth-themed board game with a certain iconic costume choice as one of the playing pieces, but decided that probably wouldn't go super well. Anyway, we got slammed for having an unwinnable board game. We did it on purpose. It was in the game instructions that once you hit a certain point in the game, you either had to change your path or you had to reset. That's it. And it was a trivia style game, so it's not like there was any sort of objective. Like you weren't trying to win at the game of life. You weren't trying to, I don't know, I'm bad at board games. You didn't have to spring the mousetrap. It was just for fun. So that went over well. We had to do some sort of multimedia collage piece. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember what I did. We had to do a photo story, which is basically a PowerPoint that we had to do a voiceover for. So it was supposed to be about your art inspirations. I know what you're thinking. Okay, that sounds like it has something to do with the creative mind, you would think. At the time, I was very heavily influenced by Tim Burton. So I made my photo story, I wrote out my narrative, and I did the project. I hit every single checkbox that she had outlined for this photo story, and she called me out in front of the entire class for not using my own work. But if it's supposed to be about your art influences, why would you not include the art that influences your art? In the same token, one of the other girls in my class did her photo story, but didn't do a voiceover because she didn't like the sound of her own voice. The same head of the art and design department let her slide for not doing a voiceover. So I get called a coward. The other girl gets to slide for not even doing part of the project. And as you can imagine, I was not really thrilled about that. It felt very much like this lady was taking any and all opportunity to get back at me for missing a department event for a department that I was no longer. And the semester carried on in a similar vein. We had other totally meaningless projects, and honestly, I wish I could remember half of the stuff we did. The final nail in the coffin came when it was time for our final. Not only was it going to be a group final, have you guys ever had to do a group project in college? They were bad enough in high school. So not only did we have to do a group final, the project was to redesign and rewrite the college bylaws. Everything from deciding whether or not we were going to remain a dry campus, to dealing with sorority housing, to dealing with student housing, curriculum, education plans. Oh, and we were going to present it in front of faculty and staff. We had 1 week. Are you kidding me? What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with creative thinking or art and design or, I don't know, making board games, doing anything else that we had done in this entire class? If you've met me in real life, you may or may not have noticed that I do not have a poker face. I have never had one. I have tried to learn to roll my eyes on the inside, and I have been largely unsuccessful. In addition to not having a poker face, I've also never really learned the skill of tact. When we walked in to the auditorium for class the one day, said art and design department chair, no joke, went on a 15-minute rant about how disrespectful and condescending we were as a class and how she didn't understand why we were all so upset about the final assignment. One of my friends spoke up, and all she did was say, "It feels like you never listened to us." To which this grown-ass woman starts yelling, "Can I talk? Can I talk now? Can I say something? Lady, you have said so much, and you need to stop saying anything." TLDR, I stood up, told her in no uncertain terms that I was going to tear her apart in the course review. There might be an additional word that I said. I got up and I walked out. The other co-teacher followed me and was like, "Hey, we can fix this. All you need to do is go back in there and apologize. It'll all be okay. It'll all be fine." What am I apologizing for? I'll wait. Please explain. I continued on my way back to my dorm. I was living at the sorority house at the time, so I went back to our house. And on my way back, I called one of my parents. And I'm pretty sure I said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get kicked out of college. What do I do?" Said parent's response was, "I'm surprised you lasted that long. Clearly this whole thing is a habit." So I went back to my dorm and I waited, and lo and behold, I get an email stating that I am to appear for like a tribunal. I'm like, all right, fine. So I go and they asked me what happened. I gave them my side of the story. And apparently this, again, grown-ass woman, early 40s, maybe mid-40s. I am 20. Grown-ass woman is so mad that she wanted me expelled. Luckily for me, I was not expelled, but I was forbidden from taking any of her other classes, which is totally fine by me because not only was she psychotic, why would I want to sit in her class to be continually harassed? Well, we didn't have like an official tribunal situation. So not only did she try to get me kicked out, she also wanted me to apologize to her personally, verbally and written, and to apologize to her in front of the class. How do you think that went? 1, I wasn't sorry. I'm still not sorry. I will never be sorry. And 2, I did apologize to her in person, not for what I said or how I said it, but for swearing. After that, I think I took one more course in the art and design department. I did a typography class, and I did absolutely everything in my power to never see the head of the art and design department again. Honestly, it wasn't that hard because, let's remember, I wasn't in her department anyway. Unfortunately, having been the girl who stood up and rung the bell, my reputation then followed me to the English department. And to be real honest, I didn't have a great track record in the English department either. I took a fiction writing course with a professor who didn't like fiction. That didn't go so hot. And you know what? Sometimes that's just how art school goes. But it really sucked the life out of me. I hated drawing. I hated sculpting things. I hated pretty much anything and everything to do with art. I had so many sketchbooks that I ended up throwing away at the end of my first year of art school. I kept my assignments until I didn't need them anymore. Getting expelled from art school probably wouldn't have been the worst thing. The thing was losing my will to create art. And if I'm being super extra honest here, the English department kind of did the same thing to me with creative writing. I lost that will and drive. Nothing I ever did at any point was good enough. But I did learn the most important thing is to have a good teacher, a good professor, somebody who is in your corner and isn't using critiques to punch down at you. Critiques are supposed to help you develop your skills, whether that's doing painting, doing creative writing, whatever. That whole experience really contributed to the struggles that I've had with my art and with creating that have persisted from the time I graduated till now. I guess in a backward way, maybe I should be grateful that I almost got thrown out of art school. After all, those experiences are what led me to where I am now, sitting here on my floor, recording a YouTube video. Trying to build the art community I wish I had in college. Don't go to art school. Unless there's something you specifically want to know that you can only discover at an art school, don't go to art school. The debt isn't worth it. And you can find thousands of other artists that are willing to share their skills and advice. And maybe you will have to pay for some of that content, but there's a lot of good free stuff out there. And who knows, maybe I will figure out what the creative mind should have been and just rewrite the course myself. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this little story time. If you want to hear about any of my other college misadventures, let me know. Thanks for being here. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.